So, HBO really are going all out with their Harry Potter TV show cast announcements, having announced another 9 cast members this week, including lots of Harry's fellow classmates, such as Draco Malfoy, Seamus Finnegan, Parvati Patil, and Lavender Brown. Today I'm going to be breaking down episode 3 of season 1 of the new show, which will cover many important points from the next few chapters of Philosopher's Stone. And it's good timing regarding these cast announcements, to be honest with you, because this episode is really going to be exploring Harry's introduction to Hogwarts and his classmates and professors, including who he makes friends with and also who he's going to be enemies with. We will see the sorting, Harry's introduction to his classes, learning the castle, and also the much anticipated introduction to a certain poltergeist. Taking all of this into account, let's dive straight into episode 3, titled after McGonagall's iconic line, "Welcome to Hogwarts." We begin episode 3, as always, with a quick recap of Harry's journey so far. We see his journey from Diagon Alley to the Hogwarts Express and finally to Hogwarts, and Hagrid knocking on the door 3 times, which was our big cliffhanger to the end of the last episode. The title sequence then rolls before we properly open the episode with McGonagall's iconic speech to the first years about the different houses and how they'll be like their family. We'll make sure that we focus on some of the first years' faces and their looks of nervousness and just terror by the prospect of doing this in front of the whole school. I particularly want to hear Harry and Ron's discussion theorising about what's going to happen and how they're going to be sorted into their particular houses, with Ron saying he heard it's a test and that Fred said it hurts a lot. We then get our grand epic entrance into the Great Hall, just as it is described in the books. Although the movie did do a very good job with this scene as well. We'll then get the sorting, but first we will get the Sorting Hat's song. Although we might have to cut it down slightly from how it is in the book. It's a very long song, I think 32 lines in all, so we'll have to trim that down a little bit in order to allow time for other important scenes later. The sorting scene then continues, very similar to the movie. We'll make sure that we focus on Harry's face and his nervousness as his name gets closer and closer. The rest of the scene, including Harry's discussion with the Sorting Hat, his sorting into Gryffindor, and the subsequent feast, will continue very similar to the movie. I really enjoyed this. I thought they did a really good job. We then get our first look at Snape and Harry's pain in his scar as he locks eyes with him, and also him noticing Quirrell looking very peculiar in a purple turban. Now, I did want to quickly point out that in these videos where I'm going to be planning out episode by episode of the new show, I'm not going to be discussing certain casting decisions that some people may or may not agree with. I just wanted to mention that because I have had a few comments asking for my opinions on this, and maybe it's something that I'll cover in a future video, but it's not the purpose of these videos. I just want to be focusing on the plot and the story. However, maybe it is something, as I said, that I might discuss in a separate video about my personal views and opinions on news that's been coming out regarding the show. But for now, let's just focus on the plot that we all want to see. Anyway, after the feast, I'm a little bit undecided on whether or not to include the Hogwarts song. I actually really enjoy this in the book, especially with the Weasleys doing their slow funeral march rendition with Dumbledore conducting them with his wand. I absolutely love that. But I don't think even the most die-hard Harry Potter fans can defend that deleted scene from the Goblet of Fire movie. That was horrendous. So I don't know, should it be included? Kind of like the Sorting Hat song, maybe just a condensed version? Let me know in the comments because I'd really like to know your opinions. So, after the feast is over, Percy will lead the Gryffindors to the common room through the castle, and finally, after all this time, Peeves. The show finally gives the poltergeist his due, cackling as he torments the first years, pelting them with chalk and being outrageously rude to everybody he comes across. I cannot wait to finally see this character brought to life. And sequence 1 of the episode will end with Harry lying in his new bed in the common room, surrounded by his new friends and people who finally accept him, before he finally drifts off to sleep and has a really flashy and snappy dream where we see Snape's face, Malfoy's face, the Sorting Hat, and a flash of green light and cackling laughter before we cut to black for the end of sequence 1. So sequence 2 of this episode is really going to focus on Harry's introduction to Hogwarts and his classes. I really want to give Hogwarts its time to shine in the new TV series, as I really believe it to almost be a character in itself with real personality. While the movies had to condense Harry's first few weeks into a couple of scenes, this series gets to linger. We'll get to see Harry learning Hogwarts, not just the classes, but the school and castle itself. The staircases rearranging mid-step, portraits giving wildly unhelpful directions, Filch and Mrs. Norris popping up in unexpected places to try and catch rule breakers, and Peeves also popping up everywhere and pelting Harry and Ron with ink bombs as they make their way to class. I also want to see Harry actually attending numerous classes, as in the movie, all we really got to see in terms of actually learning anything was a brief introduction to levitation spells. In the show, I'd imagine a sort of montage of Harry in different classes. We'd get to see him in charms, transfiguration, herbology, even astronomy. And then we get our full introduction to Snape. And it is brutal. The same iconic bullying, just like in the movies, but now we'll get a proper introduction to the potions and ingredients themselves, like in the books, such as asphodel, wormwood, and bezoars. They're not just snark here like they are in the movie, they're actually lore. Again, the main purpose of this sequence is to introduce Harry and Ron and his classmates and the viewers to life at Hogwarts and studying magic for the first time. And in all honesty, it will probably be a fairly short sequence as we have a bumper sequence 3 coming up. Sequence 3 starts with the flying lesson. I want this whole sequence to be incredibly snappy, with Neville's Remembrall, Malfoy's bullying, and of course Harry's incredible moment on the broom. This is done perfectly in the movie, let's be completely honest here, so we don't need to spend too much time rehashing something that was already done so well, especially due to the fact that we'll be starting to run out of time for this episode. We would, however, get to see Wood, like in the movie, however this time we'll really get to see that manic excitement when McGonagall introduces him to Harry. We then cut to dinner time that evening, where Malfoy challenges Harry to a midnight duel. Something that was left out completely from the movie. Our climax of the episode will begin that night with Harry and Ron sneaking out of Gryffindor common room to go and challenge Malfoy. Hermione will try to stop them as they exit and ends up following them out. This, just like in the movie, really highlights her stubbornness and rule-following nature before she really starts to become slightly more rebellious as the trio forms and the series progresses. Outside the common room, they'll bump into Neville, who's forgotten the passwords again to the Gryffindor common room, and the four of them will head to the trophy room to meet Malfoy together. This whole sequence of them creeping through the castle at night will be incredibly tense and foreboding, with muttering and snoring coming from the different portraits, pale ghosts drifting by them as they walk, and suits of armour creaking ominously as they pass. When they finally arrive at the common room, they realise Malfoy tricked them into being caught by Filch, who turns up looking for students out of bed. The four run for it, before bumping into Peeves, who raises the alarm even further. They go pelting down corridors, left, right, left again. This scene just builds and builds and builds until they burst through a locked door and slam it behind them, locking it as they do so. During the soon-to-be trio's discussion about what just happened and Malfoy's trick, Harry notices Neville tugging on the edge of his robes. Harry turns around, looks up, and sees a giant, three-headed dog baring its teeth, growling, and drool dripping everywhere. Cut to black and credits. What a cliffhanger. In the book, the chapter ends with the four heading back to Gryffindor Tower and theorising about why the dog is there and what the dog was standing on, but I really feel like for this TV series, when you really want to try and end on major cliffhangers, this is a perfect way to end the episode. So, what do you want to see in this episode? Drop your suggestions down in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any further updates on this project. I'll be back next time to plan out Harry Potter Season 1, Episode 4.